ليبيا غنية بخيرات وثروات، ومن ضمن هذه الثروات هي الثروة الزراعية.
The Kufra Project, a major strategic initiative in North Africa.
It was an excellent season, with high production rates reaching up to 7 tons per hectare.
Now, with their efforts and General Command support, we've reached 5,000 hectares.
Most of you have no real sense of what's unfolding deep in the desert, while everyone stays glued to reports of clashes in Tripoli and to the reconstruction path in Benghazi. You can recite the names of politicians, identify the faces of governments, outline the intricate details of their rivalries, but you overlook the far deeper, more existential danger, the scarcity of food and water. But there was one man, and only one, who didn't wait for anyone's permission. He carefully planned, made the decision, and immediately set out into the desert to transform it into green zones, unbothered by the burning heat of the sand, the ruggedness of the terrain, or the vast distances involved. He made food security his primary wager, lifting the mirage that long hid the land and quietly igniting a silent revolution. An agricultural uprising now pushing deeper into the heart of the barren desert. Saddam not only planted its first seeds, he has taken personal command of its advance, carefully nurturing and steering its growth, keeping it protected and largely unseen, well away from media noise and the distortions of manipulated lenses. On this land, some work in silence, fighting deep in the desert to seed the shifting sands with fragile hope, waging a relentless war on drought, confronting chronic neglect today for the sake of a distant, sustainable future. Even as the struggle sharpens over control of dwindling food and water sources, Libyan hands and minds believed that building development could transform the barren, broken desert into wide, flowing fields of wheat, sprouting renewed hope, forged by steadfast determination, becoming a secure storehouse that preserves the sustenance of the Libyan citizen, and a vast field that delivers genuine self-sufficiency for the entire nation. Behind these fields, nourished by the national vision, a vibrant, rising development project takes shape, laying the foundation for sovereignty written in work, rooted deeply in prosperity, reclaiming the parched and forgotten desert as overflowing, productive oases of production. That vision was carried by a rising general in the Libyan army, shaped by battlefield circumstances that made him more than just a military commander. He became a general who steers the course of security and stability with one hand, while with the other, he works to cement its sustainability through targeted high-impact projects that simultaneously elevate safety, food availability, and basic services. 2 years ago, it all began with a decisive field visit by Lieutenant General Saddam Haftar to the Saria agricultural zone in southern Libya, a trip undertaken alongside an active military operation targeting entrenched smuggling mafias, cross-border militias, and organized crime networks. At that moment, the scene was grim and chaotic, a landscape ravaged by neglect after more than a decade of abandonment, where once promising agricultural projects had degenerated into forgotten, sand-swallowed relics. Faced with that vast tide of shifting dunes and the skeletal remains of past cultivation, there was no time for delay. An urgent, coordinated response was required, one anchored in a clear strategic vision and built on a comprehensive plan. The idea was to literally plow the desert, to reclaim and recondition it, transforming wasted terrain into a new, purposeful investment ground instead of allowing it to remain barren, desolate, and forsaken. That overarching framework was launched by the Chief of Staff of the Ground Forces, Lieutenant General Saddam Haftar, under a new institutional banner, the National Development Authority, a vehicle intended to turn the desert's abandonment into a foundation for renewed growth and strategic resilience. The journey began with Lieutenant General Saddam Haftar assessing the needs of the people and the land. Through a series of meetings and site visits to strategic locations that could serve as the starting points for a step-by-step, inch-by-inch agricultural reclamation process. From the circles of Serer in Ujla and Sirte to Jalu and Kufra, extending to the southern reaches, on the Alzagan ground in Al Buwais area near Sabha and the southwest, and Wadi al-Shati, alongside the agricultural plain projects in Benghazi. The vision's map unfolded across the east, south, and southwest, each zone becoming an open operations theater for agricultural and engineering study teams, under Saddam Haftar's direct oversight, with the aim of securing facilitation, removing obstacles, and carving out a real agricultural reclamation trajectory. One grounded in scientific foundations and practical feasibility, reflected on operational maps and supply plans with effective methods and mechanisms to revive and invest vast lands and areas, capable of making a profound difference in the life of the Libyan citizen and in national food security, if all tools and means are committed to ensuring the project's success. The work moved decisively from paper to practical implementation. Teams were formed and agricultural support and irrigation mechanisms mobilized, so that projects began to take shape one after another, expanding day by day in partnership with the local populations, who were not merely beneficiaries, but genuine partners in a unique and sustainable development effort. This opened the door to broader cooperation with local hands, working under the guidance of engineers and technical supervisors within an integrated operational system. Growing and thriving under the ongoing oversight of Saddam Haftar. As part of a strategy that reclaims both land and people, empowering the latter to become productive sources, active and essential actors, in establishing stability in all its forms, from security to food security, by reconnecting individuals to their homeland and soil. Through national, productive, and sustainable projects backed by Saddam. They were scaled by every available means, planned and executed with engineers, technicians, and full local community engagement. Racing against time with dedication and integrity to realize the project in every detail and phase, and to achieve its full intended goals. He was the first supervisor of the project and the figure who laid its cornerstone. In him they saw a bright spark of hope worth investing in, mobilizing further efforts so he could become a vast platform to be harnessed for revitalizing the country's agricultural reality. After the project's cycle turned and its challenges were understood, from the day seeds were sown to the day of harvest, and building on initial success, Lieutenant General Saddam Haftar took further, more advanced steps to develop and elevate the agricultural sector toward peak productivity. He did so by signing agreements and partnerships with Arab and foreign companies, including 4 American firms, FarmTech, FGM, Valley Valmont, and Uland, to advance and activate the agricultural plain projects in Benghazi, alongside cooperation with the Belarusian and Egyptian Ministries of Agriculture to further develop those initiatives. These efforts, followed by relentless and sustained oversight, yielded significant impact across the agricultural spectrum, with projects expanding throughout the country. In the south, long written off by Libyans as forgotten, the scene shifted, and the image of a barren desert was overturned, transforming into circles of green gold. Wheat fields that soon donned their golden robes across multiple primary and subsidiary sites and projects, like the Debwat, Tahala, Aril, and Maknusa projects, Barju, the Disa project, Al-Laud, and the Iran project. In these initiatives, agriculture was not merely plowing earth and watering seeds. It was a test of the National Development Authority's capacity and management to impose a new reality within a harsh geography long deemed impossible to cultivate or develop. What yesterday was only plans and ink on paper has today become tangible reality, with results the land itself now speaks of. Yet all of this remains subsidiary, smaller branches under a larger tree growing and expanding under the care of the National Development Authority, centered on two flagship endeavors, the Kufra Agricultural Project and the Northern Syria.
The Kufra project, among North Africa's largest and most strategic, spans 100,000 hectares, with 50% completed.
100,000 hectares, an area larger than many well-known Arab and global capitals, yet it has become the field for a pioneering agricultural project in southeastern Libya. Spread across more than 100 agricultural zones, each centered on a groundwater well, equipped with modern irrigation infrastructure, machinery, and advanced systems, and sustained investment continues expanding its reach. As a result, Kufra project's output gap between the 2023 and 2025 harvests jumped by over 25%. These figures reflect the real transformation in the agricultural sector. Yet the team's vision for integrating such efforts was made concrete through the auxiliary projects supporting the Kufra initiative.
The Kufra project, an integrated agricultural stronghold focused on grains and vital fodder with a goal of national self-sufficiency. It includes a flour mill, a full feed factory, and local companies were contracted to upgrade the mill for maximum production capacity.
In Kufra, we are not facing a conventional agricultural project, but a sovereign productive model that lays the groundwork for a strategic shift in the very concept of development. It operates through an integrated production chain, beginning with securing the electrical and water infrastructure to reclaim the desert, preparing and fertilizing the soil to receive seed, then moving through sowing, irrigation, and monitoring, leading to harvest, followed by food processing in flour and feed mills, and culminating in delivery of the final product to the beneficiary. This complete sequence embodies Lieutenant General Saddam Haftar's vision for the National Development Authority, building an agricultural model that links land to production, production to self-sufficiency, establishing solid foundations for sustainable food security, reflecting a holistic development paradigm, and transforming the desert from a forgotten burden into a cornerstone of national output. The Kufra Agricultural Project, across thousands of hectares, laid the groundwork for bolstering the country's farming sector. Yet the North Syria project became the most pivotal turning point in the trajectory of national development. A massive strategic project, not measured only by its vast scale, but by its ability to reset Libya's food security equation and deliver self-sufficiency. It signals a shift for an oil-dependent, grain-importing country toward becoming self-reliant, and potentially, in the near future, an exporter of agricultural produce. On the North Syrian plain, the effort entered a new, advanced phase, evolving into an independent production model with real scalability.
The Sarir Agricultural Project, a main pillar of Libya's food production, benefits from vast lands, water, and reliable electricity. In the 2024-2025 season, we made strong progress. Soft wheat was planted in several circles alongside zones for green fodder. The season was highly successful, with yields reaching 7 tons per hectare.
A true agricultural miracle and a concrete embodiment of unprecedented progress in Libya's farming sector, nurtured under Lieutenant General Saddam Haftar and his vision for the National Development Authority. What began with a specially built 40-kilometer power line to feed the project now serves over 100 agricultural circles, each roughly 50 hectares, planted with wheat and barley, and supported by dozens of wells drilled along the length of Sarir, with ongoing seasonal monitoring and modern cultivation techniques.
In the past, we used to speak of 500, 300, or 600 hectares, but today, thanks to their efforts and the support of the General Command, we've now reached 5,000 hectares. Our ambitions are growing with a future plan, God willing, to produce wheat and flour, a key part of our national food security. Our goal is to reach 100,000 hectares, which will lead us to full self-sufficiency, and after that, a clear program for exporting abroad.
The success of the North Syria system, rising from the heart of the desert to the tables and livelihoods of the people, was a pivotal turning point in Libya's agricultural history. It moved the sector from neglect to production, from disorder to planning, and carried it out of the chaos of shortage into a landscape of security and self-reliance through international partnerships that reinforce a holistic vision of agricultural development.
We are also actively working in cooperation with nations that possess deep-rooted expertise and a long track record in these fields. We have reached key understandings to launch or upgrade 2,000 agricultural circles, a major step forward, God willing, in the very near future. In parallel, we've exchanged valuable experience across sectors, in agriculture, industrial development, and more, with joint efforts between the Libyan and Belarusian sides. Our aspirations as leadership remain high, and we are fully committed to supporting these initiatives with real and continuous backing. At the heart of these national development projects stand the Chief of General Staff, Field Marshal Khalifa Belqasem Haftar, and Lieutenant General Saddam Khalifa Haftar, as the principal patrons and driving force behind agricultural and development efforts throughout the Libyan homeland.
This agricultural challenge and support turning the desert upside down did not stop at planting and harvest. It became a platform for job creation, youth empowerment, and for keeping people rooted instead of fleeing. The desert transformed into wheat fields, a source of livelihood and opportunity, making the land the engine of life in a geography that lacked everything: sustainable and growing, and resilient, prosperous, expanding.
The ongoing vertical expansion is set to create major job opportunities, with around 2,000 young Libyans expected to be hired and enrolled in development training programs abroad in countries like Belarus and Egypt as part of current and upcoming cooperation efforts, God willing.
Everything achieved in Libya and what the National Development Authority aims to accomplish in forthcoming phases through the monumental agricultural projects overseen by Lieutenant General Saddam Haftar, constitutes a decisive and forward-looking strategic move to confront the growing food security challenges that have become one of the deepest and most pressing crises of the 21st century. Today, Libya is not isolated from the global food crisis sweeping across the African continent and beyond. It firmly stands at the heart of a critical battle governed by the equations of water and food, amid a rapidly intensifying worldwide race to exploit Africa's immense and untapped natural resources. Major powers like the United States, France, Russia, China, Turkey, and even Saudi Arabia are competing, both directly and indirectly, to invest in the continent's wealth, particularly in the agricultural sector. Now seen as a central pillar shaping the future of Africa, the continent holds nearly 200 million acres of arable land, representing approximately 60% of the world's uncultivated farmland reserves with transformative potential. Vast lands, seen by major global powers as a solution to their own food security crises, are being eyed as strategic lifelines for their nations and people. Within this competitive landscape, Libya's National Agricultural Project, strongly supported by Lieutenant General Saddam Haftar, is advancing not only to achieve self-sufficiency and food security, but to shield Libya from the coming geo-economic struggle sweeping the African continent, and to prevent the country from being dragged into a political bargaining arena dominated by global interests and manipulative agendas. Libya possesses one of the world's largest underground water reserves, thanks to its great man-made river, a strategic national asset that Saddam Haftar is determined to complete in full, establishing it as a defensive barrier to protect Libya's most vital resource. What Libya lacks is not natural wealth, but strategic investment in food security. This is precisely where Saddam is directing his energy, laying down a strong, inclusive, and lasting economic foundation for future generations beyond oil by creating youth-driven opportunities in natural resources, boosting livestock production, and fostering local industries that produce food instead of importing it. In the first phase, the goal is to meet internal demand, then move toward exportable surplus, enhancing national sovereignty and reducing Libya's dependence on foreign markets and their often conflicting agendas. This strategic step towards sustainable agricultural development is a forward-looking move, a preemptive response to tomorrow's inevitable conflict over food sources. Through more effective resource management and optimal investment of Libya's assets, the Libyan Agricultural Project, launched under Saddam Haftar's direct supervision, is not a temporary initiative, but a long-term vision responding to environmental shifts, global competition, and growing climate instability. It's a serious effort to steer Libya towards safety by preparing in advance for future crises and keeping the country out of an impending food war before it begins. Rather than react to disaster in the midst of chaos, this is a plan to act now. In a world redrawing its map around water and food, where tomorrow has no place for those who fail to read the complexities of the future today.